this guy was exceptional. Like terrible 1v1. Terrible. Terrible. Like,
I wasn't going to say anything.
This is the official Leeds United podcast.
So welcome the man who filled Thierry Henry's boots at the Red Bulls. It is the one and only Mike Grella.
Hey, happy to be here. That is some introduction, I got to tell you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mike. Becks has been telling us all about you and your days playing together. He said you were a top guy. Do you agree that he's also a top guy, or is he?
Or am I what? Or am I what?
He's on the call now, so I'm gonna. Well, nah, he was one of the best. I remember coming to the club and he making me feel welcome. As more of a, he was not really a veteran guy then, but he was definitely more experienced than me in the European game and knowing the English game. And he was a striker, same position as me, so he did help me a lot, make me feel comfortable. Definitely had a few really good nights out, especially when I first came, and then just watching him play. I'm gonna stop it right there. And then
that's what we're here. That's what we're here to find out about. Mate. That's what it's all about.
Squeezing the berry for the juice, mate.
No, I'll keep it PG. We'll keep it PG-13. But no, I'm just watching him play. Him and Luciano. Honestly, it was a good thing because I learned a lot from them, but it was also a bad thing because I could never get into the team. Because him and Lucci were on flames when I was there for the couple of years that I was there. So, but learned a lot from him. Top guy for sure.
Listen, one of the reasons why Luciano and I did so well was because we had Mikey pushing us constantly. Like, you don't realize how good he was in the background when we're training. Just watching him, I was thinking to myself, mate, if I slip up, this guy is getting my spot and there's no chance I'm getting it back. Same with Lucci. Lucci was thinking the same thing. If I slip up, he gets my spot. He's not getting it back, So yeah. You pushed us the same way we pushed you. But that's how we become successful, by having multiple people pushing each other as far as they can, as hard as they can. That's the rule of the land, isn't it?
And I used to use that too. I used to use that when I was negotiating my contract. I used to say, Becks is like really nervous right now. I'm pushing him. But no, we had a unique thing, there's only a couple moments in your career, I think, because, you only have a short career. And there's only a couple times where you feel like you're in a special team. That was definitely a special team. Yeah. And I think, honestly, if they would have kept that team together for a little bit longer, probably could have got the Prem pretty. I mean, I think most of those guys, if not, like 90% of them played in the Prem, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly did.
So I think it was a mistake to break that team up because we definitely had a good group, So, but it was special.
When I look back at that team and that season, obviously we had a little stumble towards the end, but that's Leeds. We have to have that. But it felt like it was a team that just loved playing football and loved playing for each other. It looked like a real family unit. And you've mentioned it there, a special group of lads. Was it quite difficult for you to come into that, or I know you just alluded to Becks being very welcoming. Were they all open arms? Come on in, join us.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you had to carry your own weight. I think if you played good football and you respected the group and you were a good locker room guy, which all of us pretty much were, I think then the respect came, and it's not difficult to get. It's not difficult to find the respect of the group. I think if you start struggling on the pitch or start struggling in the social aspect of the locker room and stuff off the field, I think then, it becomes normal. I mean, I know at Leeds when we were there, at the time, we had a lot of Premier League players come down on loan. And it was interesting to see some of them were successful and some of them were not, just because, you have to earn the respect of the group for sure, especially in that group, because we had solid players, we had solid personalities. If you look through the roster, it was just some interesting guys. We had David Prutton, we had Castro, we had Becks, we had just so many. We had Max Gradle at one point, Kis Norbo. We had the most interesting guys, and we had a good mix of like young guys and guys that were like veterans. Like, hey, this is the standard. This is what's expected. This is what the shirt means, and that was good. So I missed that group a lot, to be honest. I learned a lot from that.
Same.
Did you have obviously, for anyone who's unaware and can't tell, Mike's obviously from the United States. Did you have an awareness of Leeds United when you came over? Were they still a big club in the US? And was there an intimidation around wearing the shirt, or did that not quite translate across the pond?
No, I think probably one thing that I didn't do well enough was research. Any team I went into, I just didn't research. I had a lot of belief in my ability, probably too much. So I was just like, I'll just go in and do my job, and whatever it is, it is. But I remember showing up to the first home game at Elland Road, and the amount of people that were there, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, I was coming from college in America, and
Sure.
I had heard of Leeds before, but I think like what you get in America is like people have heard little rumblings of Leeds. If you're a really big football fan, you know Leeds, but a majority of the population in America that don't maybe really follow soccer religiously don't really know the true backdrop of Leeds and the true history of Leeds. So there's definitely an untapped market here for that. I remember going to the first game, and like the amount of people that wanted my signature, and the amount of people around Becks, and the amount of people around everybody, it was just like, I don't know. I was like, is this a joke or what? And then from there, it was like people recognizing me in the street, and the how seriously they took their football was something that I loved the most, because, I think sometimes what you get is a football stadium that could be packed or not, but there's fans that are watching that are not educated. It's more of like a social thing for them. But when you go to Elland Road, it's like 40,000 educated football fans that love their football, that love their club. And that's just something unique, that very special for me to step on the field and play, because I knew people appreciated the job that we were doing, I think the biggest mistake I made was I didn't understand the business side of the game. I thought that the game was just about, because there's games within the game, right? Like a lot of games within the game. You got to be good at them. And I don't think I had really great management. I don't think I had good guys looking after me. My father didn't really know about the game, the business side of it. I was kind of on my own a lot of the time. So that I definitely regret. But I also think like I came in as a striker, and sort of like if Becks or Luciano was out, I would come in. But Luciano was a guy that could unbelievable hold-up play, probably some of the best I've seen in my career. And Becks was just like the fox in the box, just can run behind, really threaten you. But I was a little bit different. I was more of like a linker. I was more of like a number 10, playing between the lines. Right. And so like in England, it was really not a lot of that. And the lower you dropped in the leagues, it was just there's no link in play. You either can hold the ball up, which I was not great at, or you're the guy that's in the box that just has a knack for scoring goals, which I was okay at, but not exceptional at. I was more the linker, the creator, the little bit of the number 10 who plays between the lines. And I never really got into a situation that allowed me to play my true position. They wanted me to get in the box for crosses coming from 40, 30 yards away. It was just no way that I was going to be effective doing that. And the reason why I think I bounced around to a lot of clubs was because they'd see me in training, they'd see what I could do, and they'd say, wow, okay, he can play. But then as soon as the game started, there was none of those phases of play, which is actually another strange thing. Like in training, like we play like little rondos, and we play boxes, and we play possession, and we play small-sided games, and everyone's quite technical and quite good. But as soon as the game starts and the pressure's on, there's no more football anymore, especially, like I said, as you go lower. In League One, it was a lot of the time we were not playing really great football. It was just channel, or whipping balls in and balls into Luciano, which, I mean, honestly, you have to watch this guy's hold-up play. If you're a young striker, this guy was exceptional. Like, terrible 1v1. Terrible. Terrible. Like,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Everyone used to do 1v1s and, like, terrible. Like, watching them, like, oh. But then holding the ball, like, unbelievable. So he was incredibly useful. So I don't regret any of that. I think when I got to the MLS, everything that I had been through in England, the first time I got to MLS, I couldn't remember. I couldn't believe a ball went straight up in the air and then came down and hit the grass. Nobody challenged.
You'd never seen that.
I had never seen that in my life. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be a little bit easier, I think. And then and then I saw my first goal. I'm just in the back post in the goal. Nobody around me. And it's a good finish with my left foot into the far post. There's nobody around me. Nobody within 5 yards of me. I'm in the box. In England, I'd be in the box, and guys were ripping me down, hanging over me, breathing down my neck, and it was just no way that you were scoring that easy of a goal. So that had helped me. My career in England had helped me. But I think I knew my level. I think I knew I could have played higher. I think, like we say with our group at Leeds, all these guys played in the Prem. And in training, I think I was one of the top players a lot of the time. So I was there,
Look, when we were training, we would have to pick our team. So we'd have 2 team captains or 3 team captains, depending on what drill we're doing. And I think Mikey was the first name out 9 times out of 10. If he wasn't the first name out, he was the second name out the first time round. So that just goes to show you the what we expected from Mikey, and we all know the quality that he possessed, and we wanted him to be on our team rather than against us, because if he was against us, oh my God, it's long. It's not worth it.
Well, I suppose you talking about playing that number 10 role.
It's perfectly suited for nowadays.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and I guess that's why Jesse is such an admirer of the way you played, and so I guess that leads us on to talking about him. Really, is that a role that suited playing under his system? Is that something that we'll see a lot more in the Premier League from him with, say, Rodrigo, for example? Is that something that he utilizes a lot?
Yeah, I think he would always say this to me, and I think to the group as well. Jesse's brand of football is like very fast, very intense. He wants to press, right? He wants to press the ball. He wants to get to goal. Once you win it, he wants you to get to goal in as little as passes as possible. So if you can do it in 1 or 2 passes, that's great. Obviously, if you need more, you need more. But I was the one guy in the team that could slow everything down and at times, because sometimes, and I've been watching the game. Sometimes the one defect of playing that way is that the game just goes back, forth.
Yeah.
And you end up running a lot. And it almost becomes a coin flip, because if both teams are just flying in transition, it just gets to be too much. And there's times where you need to slow the game down. And I was good at that. I was the one guy that could, all right, it's not on, let's go back around, let's play a little bit. And if teams sat in low blocks, I was one of the guys that can break them down with, something creative or a pass or a goal or something. So I fit into his system very well. But Jesse, as a manager, he's, as you can see, I mean, I came out on Twitter or something, and I said something like, you guys are getting a top manager, because I know how good he is. I worked with him for 3 years. And I hadn't realized that Marcelo had just left, and how much he was loved, at Leeds. So I got a little bit of backlash, and it was like, hey, but Marcelo just left him, and I it's probably bad on my part, because it was too soon. But honestly, like, he really is a top manager. I mean, when you look at the stuff that he's doing, just take away the football side of it, just how personable he is, how good he is with the media, how he can communicate with the players. You're not going to find a better guy. Now, whether he can get the results in the Premier League, Premier League's a different monster, So whether he can get the results in the Premier League consistently, I don't know. But you definitely, if you're going to get a manager and get rid of Marcelo, he's the only guy that I would say is suited for the job.
Do you know, you spoke about Jesse's his modern thinking, his modern way of thinking. What do you mean by that? Give us a little bit of insight.
Yeah, so he wants to play with a high line, right? He doesn't want to sit in and play possession, and that, he is quite tactical, but he wants to risk a lot. He wants to play with a super high line. He wants to play what he calls rest defense, which is like, if the last attacker is like 20 yards in his own end, he wants that defender, even if you're the last defender, to be tight to him, even though he's leaving, like, talking about now 60 yards of space behind you. Wow. Sometimes that hurt us at Red Bull, because we'd be winning the game 2-0 and we'd still be pressing and leaving a lot of space behind us. And also we had a couple really good center backs, but it's a little slow. So it's difficult to play that way. So I think, sometimes he was a little stubborn in the way that he wanted to play, but modernized in terms of with a high line, as little passes as possible to get to goal. And just this idea of play free, don't worry about the pressure of the game. Don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about being pulled. It's really refreshing working with a young manager. Also, my time in England, I worked constantly with older managers. It was always the older managers. And it was just kind of like, if you're not doing well, work harder, kick people, run more. And with the younger managers, you get a different understanding of, the football and the psychological aspect of it. So he was big in my development, because I think I was talented, but it was really not a lot of coaches that could get it out of me, and he certainly was. I just felt like he had my back, on a personal level as well. And that was huge. And I could already see the effect he's having on the team now. I mean, I could see that the guys are taking to it.
Yeah, and I really want to talk about his man management as well, but I just want to touch on something that Jesse's himself has actually mentioned in interviews, the stigma around being an American in the European game. Now, obviously, he's been around, he's been Austria, Germany, and he's picked up a lot of European ideas over there as well. But still, I mean, you're talking about very modern ideas. He's coming into one of the giants of English football with a history, and he's saying, "Hey guys, I got a bunch of new ideas." And it's how easy does that translate? Like, is there a stigma? Like when you came over, was there something that you had to face because you had the accent and people went, "Oh, what's this American going to know about bloody football?" And now we've got a manager coming over saying, "Hey guys, I want you to do all this new stuff," and they're like, "What's this yank going to know?" Like, is that still there? Does that still exist?
No question. I mean, listen, that exists everywhere, and that's okay. I think if you look at the American soccer player over the last 10, 15 years, it started out with goalies were acceptable, right? We could go because they play a lot. Right. American players, play American sports, and it's basketball and baseball. And you play
good with his hands,
good hand-eye, and they're good athletes, right? The Americans can run forever, so there's those stigmas. So you see a lot of goalkeepers had good careers in the Premier League,
sure.
And then in the players it was still till then it was only Dempsey really, and maybe Donovan that have had
Eddie Lewis as well.
Eddie Lewis as well, exactly.
Legend.
That have prolonged careers in Europe, but that's not a lot for a country of 350 million. That's not really a lot at all. So now it's become more acceptable. Right now, you get Pulisic, you have Miazga, you have a lot of players. You got Zach Steffen. There's a lot of players playing in top clubs that are American. In Barcelona with Des and Weston McKennie playing at Juventus. So and you could go on forever. Tyler Adams. So now it's become more that, but the one thing that hasn't been trusted yet is our American coaches, right? There's really not a lot of American coaches. Bob Bradley, maybe one of the only ones that has been successful in Europe to a certain extent and in America. And Jesse also, Bob Bradley was Jesse's mentor, right? They're both Princeton guys. They worked together before. So, but there's definitely a stigma there for sure. And the one thing that matches up with Jesse will not get wrong, especially with Leeds, the one thing that matches them with their DNA is that they're going to work so hard. Jesse's going to work so hard. I remember I wanted to be a coach towards the end of my career. I was thinking, maybe I'll go into coaching. I remember getting to the building one day to beat traffic. I had to do some stuff. I got there at like 6 a.m. We didn't have to be there till 9. I got there at 6 a.m. Jesse is on the bike in his office, sweating, working out. He's probably been there since 5. He's asking me, what do you think about this, that, the other thing? What do you think about this formation? He's already had a billion thoughts. Then I remember leaving that day a little bit late at like 2 or 3. He was still there. I think he was there probably till 6. And I thought to myself literally that day, I said, I never want to be a coach. It's just it's not worth it. And I don't know if I could do a better job than this guy. You always want to do something. You think you can add your own level of expertise to it, your own style to it. And I just saw everything he did for the first week or the first, that day in particular. And I said to myself, not for me. There's no way. I mean, he's there at 5, 6 a.m. He's never stopping thinking. He demands the most from everybody. I mean, he demands the most from everybody. And Leeds as a club, I think, has that in their identity. I think Leeds is very accepted. They'll accept failures, but as long as you give everything you have for the shirt, everything you have every time you play, professionalism, discipline, all that. I think if you have that, they'll accept that. And that's the one thing why it's a little bit of a match made in heaven, because I think they'll give that to each other. But football and results is obviously different monster. Premier League, different monster. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that's what Jesse will bring for sure.
Have you spoken to Jesse since he's gone to the UK, come over to England?
No, I don't know. Maybe I have once. I'm not sure. I just maybe congratulations on the job. I know you'll do great and a quick response. I think one of the things that Jesse does the best is he's always, no matter when I message him, because now the last time I was with him was 17. So it's been a few years. No matter when I message him, I get a message right back. So I haven't spoken to him. I remember when he first came to Leeds, I had put that tweet out, and then he had mentioned my name a couple times, which was really nice to have that. And then I remember I think he lost the first game, and then the second game was really shaky, and I was thinking, man, hopefully he stops mentioning me, because this is this is not going in the right direction. I don't know if I want to connect to this. But as soon as he started winning, I was really proud of him, really proud of the club, because obviously I still follow the club. And it's like one of the things I'm really proud of is that I played there for a few years. Leeds is obviously one of the biggest clubs, so it was something that's been amazing to be a part of it. And even still now, some of the respect and some of the fans that still reach out, it's incredible. The following is incredible.
It's magic.
You know, yeah, I'll tweet something about Leeds and I get like 1,000 likes or 2,000 likes or something like that. And I tweet something about anything else, I get like 20 likes.
That's Leeds.
This is the official Leeds United podcast.